Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Today, I just want to talk about something that is emanating from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. It emanates from the Organization of African Unity, or now the African Union. Just before I get into the details of what I'll be talking about, let me just recommend that you read the book written by Pastor Benny Hinn. It's titled Blood in the Sand. It's a very interesting book. It will be easy to read and you'll easily follow. It's written in a simple language in English, but it will be simple for you to follow it. And the other book that I'll recommend is titled The Mossad. It's a very simple book. It's thick, but easy to read, easy to follow as well. I'll recommend that you read that book as well. It's a very informative book around the conflict in the Middle East. Even though it doesn't go to the details, but gives a better view of the conflict in the Middle East and some dynamics there. So the two books will help you understand some of the issues around the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But I mean, I'm not quite certain. I'm not taking side whether the Palestinians are right or the Israelis are right. But my view is very simple, is that a peaceful solution needs to be reached by the two countries or constituencies or a territory and a country. I think there should be a way of trying to resolve the situation there or the conflict there. Now, the main issue is the chairperson of the African Union Commission has approved Israel to become an observer in the African Union. This is an issue that was not canvassed among many of the member states. It was canvassed, I'm quite certain of that. I don't think he could just take a position just like that, serious position like that, without canvassing such a position with other member states. He might have, but it would be good that if that issue is discussed by the heads of states and take a decision on that. The reason why I'm arguing that it is better for the heads of states and government to discuss and take a decision on this is because this issue has a possibility of dividing members of the African Union or AU members states. Already South Africa, for instance, has already taken a dim view or a different position to that taken by the chairperson of the AU Commission of allowing Israel to have an observer status. My main concern is if this issue is not properly handled, it may create serious divisions within the AU, and the AU might not be able to achieve its own goals. Remember, in the previous era, before 1994, the Organization of African Unity, the AU, which is the predecessor of the OAU, was focusing much on the political part of things in Africa, mainly the liberation of African countries or to ensure the independence of the African countries. But the AU, which is the predecessor to the OAU, focuses much on the economic development of Africa. And obviously, the geopolitical situation in the world has completely changed. And obviously, the AU had to be dynamic in its thinking, in its way of interacting with other world players. That is why the issue of having some observers, for instance, Haiti is also an observer, is being approved to become an observer. And now you have Israel. And obviously, you might still have other countries, maybe China, maybe the United States, maybe Britain, and all that might apply to become observers as well in the AU. So there should be a better way of the AAU or of the AU leaders taking a decision that will be applied uniformly. In other words, when an application comes of a country requesting to become an observer, then you know that you apply the same standard as you will have applied to other countries. But now the issue of Israel is controversial in the sense that the chairperson didn't consult with member states. This issue is not approved by member states. Secondly, things have changed. The way the geopolitical situation in the world has changed will require the AU to be dynamic and foresighted in its approach in dealing with other countries. I support Israel. As a Christian, I support Israel. But at the same time, I cannot close my eyes to issues that are happening in Palestine. So the conflict, I don't have a clear understanding of the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. So I still need to do some research and understand it. In 2019, I did meet just some people and just ask them who are from Israel and some were from Palestine. I mean, I met them in the United States and just asked them questions to try and understand what is happening with the conflict, because I don't want to claim to understand the situation there. I don't understand it, But based on some of the information that I've gathered, the conflict is more complicated than religion, which is taking place there, and race. So it's beyond that. So it needs to be understood. When people say there was a settler or occupation, we need to understand that. When we say there was land grab by the Israelis, is it true or not true? We need to understand it. And that is why I'm planning a visit there when I have time, and when the coronavirus has been brought under control, I might have to travel to just visit the Holy Land and visit Palestinian territory, just to try and understand what is happening, what is this fight all about, and obviously to help me as a Christian to visit some of the most sacred sites of my belief, of my Christianity, where Jesus Christ was baptized and so on and so on. So I need to visit those areas. But the issue around the conflict, I mean, when Haile Selassie and the other leaders decided to form the AU, they didn't form the AU to have observers from all over the world, but they formed it to focus much on Africa. In my humble opinion, leaders from other countries or other countries who request to be observers, they must be given observer status at the level of an extended session of heads of states. In other words, you may have the session of the heads of states, which must be closed sessions, and you can have extended session where then you can allow observer status. And those can be approved, but they must be endorsed by the heads of state. The AU chairperson can make recommendation to the heads of state that such and such a country made an application, and this application will recommend that it be approved so that this country can have observer status in the extended session of the heads of states. Not just for the chairperson, who's not an elected country official, but is an appointed official in the AU. So I recommend that the heads of state must discuss this issue and decide on it. It's a very divisive issue. Personally, I haven't taken a position whether to support or not to support this position, but heads of state must discuss this issue and decide on it, whether they give Israel an observer state like they've given to other countries, Haiti and so on. So that is an issue that they must discuss and agree upon themselves as heads of state.